So, a few weeks ago, I made a tier list where I ranked all of the new enemies and old enemies in Tears of the Kingdom, and you guys really seem to like that video. So, in today's video, we're going to be doing another tier list, but we're going to be ranking 16 of the best and most interesting builds that I have found in Tears of the Kingdom. I have 4 tiers going from insane, good, meh to special D tier down below for all of the worst builds. However, I don't really expect most of these builds to be that bad because I think I picked out some really good ones. So we're going to start off really basic with the Hoverbike. Now, I actually made a video that included the Hoverbike, and if you guys have watched that video, you'll know exactly why I'm going to put the Hoverbike in good tier. I hesitate to put it in insane because, it's just 4 parts. The creativity level isn't too crazy. However, for only 4 parts, you basically get the best vehicle in the entire game. I made a whole video talking about just how good this thing is. You could easily traverse the depths or any type of ground on land with it. You can fly pretty much as high as you want, and it takes almost 0 fuel, especially once you've upgraded your battery to max, and you're able to turn, land, go up high, avoid enemies. You're basically able to do whatever you want with this thing, which is why it's so overpowered. And for only like 9 Zonite, you can rebuild it with auto build whenever you really need, which is why I'm going to put it in good tier. So next up, another kind of simple build is the new Master Bike, which is basically the alternative for the Master Cycle from Breath of the Wild, and I'm going to put it in meh tier. I think it's a really good invention. Obviously, it doesn't cost much Zonite, you're only using 4 materials. However, it doesn't turn very well, especially because it does go pretty fast with those small wheels. However, the small wheels do struggle to turn, so when you're using this new Master Cycle, you're going to end up going fast on straights. So when you need to go up straights and up hills, it is really good because you can just go fast. However, those turns are going to be really hard, and if you fall off of it, since it doesn't balance itself with the stabilizer off, that means that you're going to have to reset it with Ultra Hand over and over again whenever you want it to be in a certain area, and that can be a little annoying. So just for that, it's still a good invention, so I won't put it D tier low, but I do think it is a meh invention. It has some perks, but overall it's kind of eh. Next up, we have the moving turret. Now, the moving turret is an interesting invention because obviously, like the first 2 that we've seen so far, it's still relatively cheap. It's very easy to build. You just need a stabilizer, a construct head, and then a cannon on top of it. Very simple to build, and it auto tracks on enemies. The only problem is that the cannon doesn't do too much damage. It does a good amount of damage, but against high level enemies it's not going to do a crazy amount, and it can be annoying because some of the trackers get stuck on walls and ramps and stuff, so sometimes they're not as efficient as you'd want them to be, and there's no preventing them from blowing you up. Sometimes when you go into an enemy camp and you just put 3 of these guys down, they end up blasting you instead because one of the enemies runs up on you. So it can be a little tedious, and they do consume a little bit of energy before they can actually get any kills. So for that, I'm going to put this in meh. It's a cool invention, very simple design. However, what you get out of it is kind of eh. There's not much to it other than the fact that, you get a moving turret, which is pretty cool. Next up, we have the satellite laser cannon. Now, you've probably seen a few variants of these. There are like a bunch of different variants, but the whole idea revolves around using a rocket attached to a bunch of platforms with lasers on them that will basically destroy any enemy that you put it above. Now, in most examples, you'll see people using it against Gleeoks because the Gleeoks are usually difficult to defeat. However, when you're attacking them with lasers, they actually get put in a little stun animation, which means that they're just going to get stunned over and over again, and they can't really do anything except, some of them might get an attack off, but all you can do is just kind of stand out of their distance and watch as the lasers absolutely melt the Gleeok. And for the creativity and just absolute coolness of how it looks, I'm going to put the satellite laser cannon in insane because the first time that I saw this on Twitter, I was losing it, bro. I thought this was like an insane build, and it actually makes sense how it's designed too. So the design, the creativity, just how it looks in general, it's got to be insane. Next up, we have this pickup truck. Now, you might be wondering why there's a pickup truck on here, and I wonder that too, because I found this build by Blazing Falco on zeldabuilds.gg, and I thought this was a really interesting build until I looked into why it was built and realized that it has a storage compartment for Koroks in it, which means that I'm going to put this pickup truck in straight to D tier for Die Koroks. Okay, next up we have another one that I featured in a video, which is the rotating fire breath cannon one. Now this is a tank build that uses the motor and the propeller along with flame emitters to basically create a spinning wheel of death that you can actually control and run up on enemies. And honestly, for the design alone, I think this has to go in good. I hesitate to put it in insane just because it doesn't do like a crazy amount of damage and it is a little bit hard to control. However, the actual aesthetic of it and how it looks is just so amazingly cool that I cannot put it any lower than good. Next up, we have a really interesting one and probably the most creative one on this whole list, the cooking mixer, created by Randori on zeldabuilds.gg. Now, the creator placed certain puff shrooms and other ingredients inside of a box, and using the contraptions along with the wheels and the sticks was able to make it look like you're literally mixing something inside of the box. And honestly, even though it literally serves no purpose other than just looking cool, I'm going to put the cooking pot in insane tier, because when I first came across this, I was legit so blown away by what I saw that I instantly had to put it on this list. Like, I was so blown away with this person's creativity, especially when they added in the mushrooms to make it look like cooking flour. There was no way that I'm not going to put it in insane tier. It goes right up next to the laser cannon, honestly. So next up, we have another really creative one, the Swimworm by Sleeping Kirby. This is the first time I've seen a legitimate water traversal device that actually like works like a vehicle on land. Basically how it works is the tires rotate the boards that they're sitting on and the stabilizers to make it so that it never tips over in the water, and Link can actually control whether you're moving left or right like an actual boat, which means you can traverse upstream, you can traverse basically any body of water that is deep enough for the tires to fit in, which is clearly, in my opinion, the most creative water travel device we've seen so far on this list. We do see a few other cool water traversal devices, but this is probably the most simple and easy to make one. It's just a bunch of tires. I do assume it would cost a little bit of Zoanite because of the big tires, but the creativity alone, I'm going to put it in good tier. I think this is really cool. Next up, we have a recreation of the Going Merry by TroyBoy_art. And honestly, when I first saw this is so cool, bro. I'm going to put it in good tier. It literally is nothing except a boat with a flame emitter up front. But for the One Piece reference and the fact that somebody created the Going Merry with like the head and everything, bro, I got to give it to you, bro. That's a cool idea. The fact that I saw this and I instantly had to put it on this list. And the fact that it actually works as like a boat. Like, it looks like any normal boat you would find in any sort of game. And they recreated the actual boat design really well. So I'm going to put that in good tier. I would put it in insane, but other than that, it doesn't really do much. Here's another build that I featured in this video, the Advanced Combat Mech. Now, this is a mech that I was actually able to recreate myself and use, and for that reason, I'm going to be putting it in insane tier. And if you guys have not seen that video, I make sure to go check it out, but you can see the absolute destruction that this thing leaves in its wake. It's really easy to control. You just sit in the back of it. You have a pretty much protection against any attacks coming from the front, and you can customize the arms to have either cannons, lasers, flame emitters, shock emitters. You can pretty much do whatever you want with this mech. And honestly, the best part about it is the mobility. It actually goes really fast. So even if you're not fighting, you could literally just travel across Hyrule in a cool looking mech, right? Who wouldn't want to travel across Hyrule in a cool looking mech? And for that reason alone, I'm going to put it in insane. The creativity for the creator who came up with this, and the fact that they were able to combine all these parts into a really actual working mech, it's got to go in insane tier. For this next build, I legitimately do not even know what to call this thing. We'll just call it the fossil ship. Whoever created this thing, I don't know how you thought of this, but it was a really cool idea. First of all, it just looks sick. There isn't much to it other than the fact that, you know, it's a fossil ship. You put a control wheel, you fuse some fossils together to create basically a fossil ship. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the design itself and how it looks, I wouldn't put it any lower than good, honestly. Its functionality isn't like crazy. You're not going to do anything crazy on it except pull up on a fossil ship. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Next up, we have the enlarged Canon Gun. Now, this is a pretty interesting idea. It looks exactly like you would think a huge cannon would look like in any type of media, honestly. And I think that's what the allure is to this invention. It looks exactly like something that you would find in a show or something, and using all the aspects that were provided to us in Tears of the Kingdom to create a working Canon gun in this game honestly deserves all the props. It only shoots one shot per like a few seconds, and since it's the cannon, it's going to be doing the explosion, but to stronger enemies in the game, it's not going to be killing them or anything. So it's a very, very cool invention, and for that alone, I'm going to put it above meh, but it doesn't really do too much damage, so I'm going to put it near the top of good. Next up, we have another water traversal device, which is basically a Pirates of the Caribbean type ship with rotating moving cannons. So this is honestly a really cool build. I think the most impressive part about this is honestly when you're just riding it, the cannons look back and forth like they're targeting somebody, and you can just pull up on the sides of beaches, you can just pull up anywhere in water and, you know, automatically start a water wars fight, and I think that's really cool. Plus, the design of it just looks sick. Any of the boat designs, just like the Going Merry that we saw earlier, I think pretty much all boat designs in Tears of the Kingdom are really good. If you designed a boat, you deserve your props. Very top of good. The water devices may be cool, but that doesn't mean that the ground devices are not. We have another super really inventive ground traversal device. It doesn't really have a name, however, I like to just call it the Steel Ball Run. It uses a metal ball stolen from a shrine, which you know how to do if you've watched this video, and 4 stabilizers to basically make sure the device stays upright. And basically you just use the metal ball as a traversal device to move in pretty much every single direction, which means you're able to turn, you're able to move forwards and backwards with a decent relative speed. So just for the creativity and effort alone, I'm going to put it at the top of good tier. All of these are very good ones, but I think this one is very good, only maybe being surpassed by the air bike in good tier. Next we have a mech that I simply like to call the Kamikaze Mech. And if you don't know why I call it the Kamikaze Mech, well, you know, now you do. Now you know why I call it the Kamikaze Mech. The design itself, the fact that it looks like an actual mech, is really cool. However, it doesn't really serve any purpose. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I'm going to put it in meh tier. I don't think this is a very good invention at all, except for the actual design part. But it doesn't do anything. It does even less than some of the boats do, because you can't even go in water or like move with it. So yeah, I'm gonna unfortunately have to put it in meh. Finally, for our last entry on the list, we have a Pacific Rim Transformer Robot. That's right, a Pacific Rim Transformer Robot by Zelda Builds 2307. Now, this is honestly the most impressive build that I've seen in Tears of the Kingdom. It's a mech that is, you know, first of all, it's a mech. Any mech designs are automatically going to go to high tier at least. And it's a mech that not only can be maneuvered on the ground, but also can fly in the air. And I know you're thinking like, no way that's possible. Well, it actually is. By using a wing on its back and certain fans, you can actually promote movement on both on the ground and off of certain ledges while still being able to maintain that, you know, that attack potential with the horns, the lasers on the side, along with construct heads with cannons on top. So there's pretty much nothing that this Transformer robot can't do. He can do everything that the other mech, the combat mech, could do, and pretty much just does it better. The only thing the combat mech really has is just speed on the ground. However, who needs speed on the ground when you have speed in the air and on the ground, right? So there's pretty much nothing that this Gundam robot can't do. It also has really good movement on the ground, and you can stop really quickly, which means you can actually stay in front of enemies and continue to damage them even when they're not dying. That's one of the biggest problems with a lot of inventions in Tears of the Kingdom is that, oh, I'll do a lot of damage, but it's kind of a drive-by, you know what I mean? Like, you end up going past a lot of the enemies in this game. This mech has none of those problems. He's able to clearly just sit right in front of you, move forward and backwards as he needs, traverse however he wants, you know, and then if you want to, you can always just dip out back into the air. Fly around Hyrule, why don't you? It's such a cool design. It does require quite a bit of energy, obviously, but once you've upgraded your energy cells to max, you won't really have to worry about energy all that much. You can always use a large Zonite charge if you really need to take on any fight. And yeah, there's no reason not to put this in insane tier. I mean, it's clearly the most insane build that I've seen in Tears of the Kingdom. And so here is our final list of the 16 most interesting builds that I've found so far in Tears of the Kingdom. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want me to make a part 2, make sure to submit your builds to me to review them in another video in the future. I'll make sure to leave a link down below to do that. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As always, I love making these types of tier videos, especially for Tears of the Kingdom, since there's so much stuff to review in this game. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.